everyone, it's Ryan here, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little different than what I'm used to doing in the past. So today's video is going to be a story time video. Since we're still all in quarantine during this time period, I decided to reflect on a trip that really got me into traveling in the first place. And this trip was to Italy, and it happened 6 years ago in April of 2014. During my junior year of high school. It was a class trip and we went over our Easter break. And it was a life-changing experience for me and so many other people on this trip. And like I said, it really opened my eyes and made me realize there's so much more to this world, and it just inspired me and it really made me feel good. And I really embraced it, and it really left a big impression on me. And since that day, I've broadened my horizons and I've had different perspectives about the world now. And yeah, it's just, it's always something I like to look back on. It always gives me a smile. So as you can see right here, I'm actually wearing a Rome t-shirt. I actually got this shirt on the trip. I actually got this in Rome, and that was one of the 4 stops we made, or one of the 4 main stops. So our trip was going to 4 cities: Turin, Venice, Florence, and Rome. And yeah, I'm going to take you guys through the journey. I got plenty of pictures to show you. So yeah, sit back and relax, and yeah, let's get started. So I was originally going to do this the cheap way, where I would just show some pictures and I would just do a voiceover. However, I feel that that wouldn't be genuine enough or personable enough. I really want to get a little more comfortable speaking in front of the camera from the heart. And I've seen other people who've done these kinds of storytime videos really, speak in front of the camera from start to finish and limit the amount of times they reflect with pictures. So I'm going to try my best and see how I do. And I apologize if I stutter here and there, but yeah, here I go. So, as I mentioned, this trip to Italy took place during April of 2014, my junior year of high school. I actually went to an all-boys Catholic high school in Ramsey, New Jersey called Don Bosco Prep. And yeah, so I took Italian all 4 years of high school. And my teacher was very enthusiastic and very intrigued about the possibility of doing a trip to Italy. Our school had done foreign travel trips before in the past. However, it had been a while since they had done one to Europe. And my teacher brought it to the attention of the administration, and they put some work in, and eventually they devised a plan to go to Italy for 1 week over Easter break in April. And my classmates were so excited, and my classmates in Italian class were some of my closest friends. And yeah, they quickly jumped at the opportunity and signed up. And, they were asking me, hey, Ryan, are you going to go? And I wasn't really sure about that. I had gone on a trip 3 years prior at the end of 8th grade, after the end of 8th grade. And I had went to Quebec and Montreal, I believe. I don't remember the cities exactly. But yeah, I went in June of 2011, and it was a good trip. I enjoyed it. However, I felt like I could have enjoyed it just a little bit more. I got homesick very easily, and it was really the first time that, I was by myself without any parents or guardians, really looking around for me. And I wasn't used to that, and I got, homesick extremely easily. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I would have liked to. So I really looked at this as an opportunity to, I guess, kind of redeem myself. And also, I was thinking to myself, how many opportunities am I going to get to go to Italy in my life? And so I decided, you know what? You're going to be going with your best friends. And I really think that will make a big difference, because I didn't really know too many people on the trip to Canada. And I wasn't super close with all of them. So I think this would make a big difference in leading me enjoying the trip just a little bit more. So eventually, I'm sorry about the sound on the right side. The staircase to my house is right there. If you're wondering where I am, I'm actually in a closet because it's extremely silent here, and this is not a big house, so you can hear a lot of noise, plus the neighbor's dog is barking up a storm. So anyways, I decided to go to Italy, and I really was excited for it. So we actually began the trip over the weekend on Good Friday. So my mom, who's actually an English teacher at Don Bosco, she drove us to the campus, and we had a quick mass in our chapel. And then after that, we quickly had this picture in front of one of our buildings. And then we set off and went to John F. Kennedy International Airport. And we had a 7 or 8 o'clock evening flight to Italy. We would be flying into Milan. And yeah, I was really stoked, and I could not wait for it. So we were flying Alitalia, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure exactly. But anyways, it was a 3-road 747 or 767. and I was in the middle row. I had one of my best friends to my right, and I also had an Italian couple on my left. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. So I did not get up at all during this flight. This was a 7-hour flight. Not once did I get up to use the bathroom or stretch my legs. I was there from start to finish. I was kind of proud of myself for that, but I was also, in a cranky mood when we arrived in Milan. I actually also want to mention I have my yearbook right here, my junior year high school yearbook. It's actually got a page dedicated to the trip. And it's this one right here, as you can see. And these are all the pictures from the trip. I don't know how well you can see it. But yeah, I'm in some of these. You just really have to look hard for me. It's not hard to find me though, because I'm the one wearing a gray baseball cap. And yeah, it's got this little description in the bottom right of the page. And actually, I think this was based off of an article that I had written for a newspaper covering the trip. So that was really cool, and I was very proud of that as well. So anyways, we arrive in Milan, and the weather was awful. It was raining, it was overcast, but you know what? I tried my best not to let that bother me, even though I was kind of in a grouchy mood because I didn't really get any sleep on the plane. But we drove for like an hour or an hour and a half to Turin, and Turin was absolutely gorgeous. It was nice and quiet, very simple, and a laid-back place to be. And yeah, I actually took this picture in Turin of a DeLorean. And this is, of course, the kind of car that Marty McFly travels back in time with in Back to the Future. But yeah, so in Turin, we actually stayed at this place called Casa Mama Margherita, which is named after Don Bosco's mother. Don Bosco, of course, being our school's founder. And that was across the street from Don Bosco's original oratory for boys. So Don Bosco, or St. John Bosco, was an extremely big influence on young men, and he really made them into great young men growing up. He played a big role in their lives, especially, if they were poor. He never judged anybody, and that's really what the school's motto was really all about. And we were taught, just be kind to one another, love one another. And yeah, it was a he was just a big influence. Also, when we arrived in Turin, we met up with our guide throughout the trip. Her name was Tatiana, and she had a big flower in her hand that she would raise high above her head whenever we were walking around any city, so that way we wouldn't get separated from one another. So the Casa Mama Margherita was a pretty cool place to stay. So I don't really have any pictures of the hotel, unfortunately. I should have, but the lighting actually wasn't that great in there, but the scenery was absolutely spectacular, and the whole place was just absolutely amazing to see, and it was just very cool, and it was like a time capsule. It was like traveling back in time to a simpler time, and yeah, it was just very, very cool. So the second day, which was Easter Sunday, we went into Don Bosco's hometown where we visited his house, and it was actually visited by Pope John Paul II, and his house was very nice to see. It had a lot of cool rooms, and a lot of things remained intact, and I was snapping away with my iPhone, and I took this picture, which is pretty cool, of this farmer, I guess you can say. I wasn't sure, but it was very realistic. And then later on, my class and I, gathered for this picture. This was my junior class, and we were by far the largest of the 4 classes that went on this trip. There was about 10 to 13 juniors. There was only about 5 seniors, 1 sophomore, and I think 4 freshmen. So we were by far the largest group on this trip. And yeah, as you can see, I'm the smallest one too. I'm only 5'6", so I was very, very small, and I was an easy target for jokes. But I tried my best not to let that bother me. I will mention I'm not going to mention any names here just for the sake of privacy. I don't want to, accidentally reveal something about anybody or anything like that. So it's mostly just going to be from my perspective. So we had lunch around the area, and lunch was absolutely amazing. The green scenery surrounding us was so thrilling, so peaceful. I never saw anything as beautiful as this in my life. And also, if you look at these pictures, you can also see my thumb in the top left of the corner. And my thumb was very good at ruining these pictures, but you know what? I was inexperienced in taking pictures at the time, so I'm sorry about that. Then after lunch, we went back into town, hung around a little bit more, and then we eventually had pizza, and that was really our trip to Turin. It was definitely the most laid back of all 4 cities that we visited, and yeah, it was just a very nice way to begin the trip. So then the next day, we headed to Venice, Italy, and Venice, hands down, is the coolest city I have ever visited in my entire life. It's probably the coolest place I've ever visited in my entire life because it's so different from what I am used to and from what a lot of other people are used to. The fact that the main method of transportation is by boat and it was just so beautiful, and I was just so thrilled to be there, and it always made me smile no matter what. I was also very excited to go to Venice for another particular reason. If you remember from my last video, I did a video on Letchworth Village, which is an old abandoned center that used to be made for the mentally and physically disabled, and unfortunately went terribly wrong. And if you remember also, I mentioned that the television show Ghost Adventures did a paranormal investigation there. And Ghost Adventures was one of my favorite shows growing up, because I was very interested in the paranormal, and the show was just very entertaining as well, let's be honest here. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's a very entertaining show. And they also did an episode a couple of seasons prior to that. In 2009, they did an episode on this island called Poveglia Island.
This is an abandoned island that legend says was formed by the ashes of the thousands upon thousands infected by the bubonic plague.
And it was located in the South Lagoon of Venice. And yeah, I saw that episode, and it was a spooky episode. So when we arrived in Venice, I was like keeping my eyes open, trying to find this place as much as possible, looking at all the islands around Venice. And yeah, lo and behold, there it is. It pops right out in front of me, and I just went, oh my god, it's Poveglia Island. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing to see that up close, and check off another paranormal place that I've seen on Ghost Adventures in person. And to top it all off, it was located right across the water from where our hotel was. So I was snapping away on my iPhone. I wish I could have gone there and see it, very up close. Of course, you can't do that. And obviously, nobody else on the trip, I think, really knew what that island was except me. So yeah, but to just see it was absolutely amazing. So then we went to St. Mark's Square, and we had lunch there, and we just walked around. And it was so amazing to see. And this picture right here is probably my favorite picture that I've ever taken in my entire life. I was laying on my back, and I was pointing my camera up to the sky to get the tower. And yeah, lo and behold, a seagull flies into the frame, and it just creates this very cool image. And this is definitely my favorite picture that I've ever taken. It's so pretty, and yeah, it was just very, very, peaceful, and a gorgeous picture that I shot. And I was very proud of that picture, even though I didn't intentionally mean to do that. I got very lucky. So then the next day we went back to St. Mark's Square, and we actually had mass down, I think, in the crypts, I think you can say, of one of the churches. And then we got back out, and then we hopped on a gondola. And this experience was so, one of a kind, and I had never experienced anything like this. It was so beautiful, and our driver was very cool, and he would always, steer around in, fancy motions. And the fact that he's able to maneuver himself was just absolutely, amazing to me. We probably would have sank if I was behind an oar. But yeah, the gondola was a great experience. And after that, we visited a glass factory, and that was pretty cool too. The glass factory was awesome. The people there were very friendly. And then after that, one of my classmates was actually dared to jump into the Venice water for a couple €100, and he did. And I actually got the video, but because his face is shown there, I don't want to, do anything like that to him or anything like that. So that was that. He didn't get caught, mercifully, although we did end up with a scraped knee. So that kind of stunk for him, and he was shivering on the way back to our hotel. So our next stop was Florence, and whew, boy, Florence was kind of tricky for me. Florence was absolutely beautiful. I absolutely loved the scenery of Florence. It was so great and everything like that. When we arrived in our hotel in Florence, my roommates were not thrilled with the bedroom that we had gotten. The bedroom was very small, and our view of Florence was actually a machine. And I don't know what kind of machine it was, but it was very hot, and the beds were all stacked together. And my friend literally calls his mother all the way back in the States, and she speaks with the hotel manager, and he manages to get his room switched. So my two roommates get a different two-person bedroom somewhere else in the hotel, and that's the last available room in that hotel. So I actually roomed with a different group of guys in the hotel, and actually the biggest room that the hotel had, so I didn't really mind that at all. So Florence was very good. The second day in Florence was kind of a struggle for me. I got sick, unfortunately, and unfortunately I had to drag my Italian teacher, Tatiana, and one of her parent chaperones around Italy to try and find a bathroom. and I felt terrible, and I think I screwed the group in giving them the chance to see the statue of David, I think. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, I just did not feel good at all. I had a hard time finding a bathroom, and it took me literally about 30 minutes to find one, and yeah, that was tough. That was very tough, and I felt bad for whatever I did. And then later on in the day, I was walking around the town with a freshman, and it was just the two of us for literally 2 hours. We actually got lost in Florence for a little bit, and for some reason I wasn't that concerned. I was thinking to myself, hey, check it out, I'm lost in Florence. Pretty cool. I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to get to say I've been lost in Florence. Unfortunately, out during this time, I was actually robbed 15 euro. Well, not robbed, I was ripped off 15 euro. I was backed up against a wall at a store. Some people went inside to do some shopping, and I just said, no, I'll stay out here. And then all of a sudden, this guy, like, corners me up against the wall, and he just starts handing me out random stuff. And he says, hey, man, can you just give me some money? And I gave him 15 euro. He left. I wasn't happy about that, obviously, so that wasn't great either. So yeah, Florence, probably I had the worst luck, but nonetheless, that is not what Florence is all about, obviously. Florence was so amazing, so beautiful, and like I said, getting lost in Florence, it really gave me a chance to just gain some clarity and just really embrace the situation at hand. I wasn't really that nervous. And actually, I also went to a store, and I actually spoke the only Italian that I ever spoke during this trip. I said, Io capisci English, sì o no? Do you speak English, yes or no, obviously? And the person said yes. So that worked, and that was very cool. And yeah, I know I say cool a lot, by the way, I'm sorry. So after Florence, we actually hopped on a bus, and we actually drove through Pisa. We saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That was really cool. And then the last place on this trip was, of course, Rome. And Rome was absolutely magnificent. I had such a blast there, and it was so gorgeous to see. We explored the Vatican. My favorite part of Rome was seeing the Roman Colosseum. It was actually under renovation at the time, so unfortunately we didn't see the entire thing, prestigious or whatever. But nonetheless, it was a great place to see. The hotel that we stayed at in Rome was actually right on the beach, and that was also another cool aspect about the whole thing. So I'll actually tell you one funny story that happened in Rome. So as I mentioned, my friends in my class love to mess with me, and understandably so. I'm an easy target, I'll admit. So on the last day of the trip, the day we were leaving, as if I hadn't had enough stuff happen to me already on this trip, one of the things was, like I said, I had a New York Yankees gray cap on my head, and that was an easy target for my friends to pick on me, and they were taking it off my head continuously throughout the trip and just playing with it, fiddling with it. And then my friends took the cap and threw it on the ledge outside of our hotel room. They placed it on this little balcony ledge right beneath my window, and I just had enough. And I let loose, I screamed at them, and literally, like, people around the hotel were just looking and listening, like, what the hell was that? And that was me screaming at the top of my lungs because I reached a breaking point. I really reached a breaking point, so yeah, that's what you get when you're me, I guess. And yeah, but like I said, my friends are very great, and they just like to mess around with me. So obviously I didn't take it personally or anything like that. I just had enough, just because it was a lot, and it was the last day. I just wanted a break. I just wanted to go. I just had enough. So yeah, I lost my cool a little bit, and that was probably another low point of the trip for me. But yeah, that was really the Italy trip in a nutshell, and yeah, it really made an impact on me, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, take care, and see you next time. Bloopers. The paranormal, the supernatural, just really intrigues me. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. And also, Venice was an awesome place to visit for me, specifically because remember in my last video, when I mentioned, I was also very excited to go to Venice for another particular reason. If you remember from my last video, I did a video on Letchworth Village, which is an old abandoned center that used to be made for mentally and physically disabled. And unfortunately went terribly wrong. And if you remember also, I mentioned that the television show Ghost Adventures did a paranormal investigation there.